Good morning. Hi, how are you? It's time for Our Town again. Comes to you each and every week at this time on this very radio station, which is 94.9 and 99.1 The River. We have a three-guest program on the Our Town program. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, by the way, and I'm Darren Swinson, the host. A little later on in the program, we'll get our monthly check-in with Decorah City Manager Travis Goedken. We'll talk to our friend and colleague, Janelle Halverson. She will talk to us about the Winneshiek County Historical Society, their annual meeting coming up, and showing off a few of their things going on this weekend. And first things first this morning, we're going to talk to Luther College baseball coach Bryan Nikkel. Coach Nikkel, the head of the Luther baseball program, started a versus cancer game probably around a decade ago, and this year's versus cancer game going to a very specific and a very special cause. Coach Nikkel will bat leadoff. That's an appropriate analogy with baseball coach, I'd imagine. Coach Nikkel will bat leadoff. The conversation with him comes up right now. This is Our Town. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and you're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. Coming up this Saturday, the Luther College baseball program is having their versus cancer day. It's something the program has done for quite some time. And here to talk about the event coming up this weekend is Luther baseball coach Bryan Nikkel. And Coach, explain how this event really became a thing a few years back.
So yeah, it does go back quite a while, Darren. You're right. And former assistant coach of ours, Nick Saldano, had childhood cancer himself, and found out about a foundation who raises money for pediatric cancer. Very few actually of the funds raised for cancer research goes towards pediatric cancer. So something really unique that he got us going, and it's really blossomed into an unbelievable event that our entire program and families and alumni have really rallied with.
And through this event, your program developed a really close relationship with Louis Lechtenberg, and most people in the area know Louis's story. Unfortunately, God took him from us last summer. How did your program develop the relationship with Louis?
Yeah, no, thanks, Darren, for asking. You're right. Lewis is definitely known far and wide, and continues to get known even further and wider, which is really special. Our administrative assistant, Kari Cook, came to me and just let me know. We started talking, and one thing we do with the event, we raise money. And as we all know, sometimes writing a check and walking away isn't enough, right? We want to be real. We want to get involved with something that we really feel like we can make a difference. And we met Lewis. He was battling brain cancer at that time and just coming into remission, and invited him and his family to come out and throw out the first pitch. And we shaved our heads in honor of Lewis. And yeah, that was 5.5 years ago, and the relationship just developed from there, really organically. Where I've told people I don't know if we went 3 days in a row without seeing Lewis at a lifting session, a practice. It didn't really matter. Any team function, Lewis seemed to always be there, whether his parents were there or not. Being a smaller community, Northeast Iowa, which is great. His sisters are using the pool swimming. And so whenever Lewis had a chance to come to Luther College, he came and he looked for a Luther baseball player and just kind of hung out with them the rest of the day.
And one of the neatest stories regarding Lewis is the relationship he had with Nick Defoe, one of your pitchers who ended up having surgery a few years ago. Pick up the story from there for those that may not know.
Yeah, so one of our players, as you mentioned, Nick Defoe, had a very unique injury where his lung collapsed down the home stretch of our season. And him and Lewis were very close throughout that, before that process even started. But Nick had to go in for a pretty significant surgery, pretty invasive surgery. And, it was just really special where Lewis actually FaceTimed Nick before his surgery and gave him the advice that Lewis liked to give, which was be brave, be strong, be happy, and eat steak. So it just really grew from there. And him and Lewis had that special bond. And Lewis actually even came down to see him and wanted to see Nick and in his recovery. And that relationship was very, very strong.
And Tell us about the event coming up this Saturday and how you will be raising funds and what you will be raising funds specifically for this year.
Yeah, so we're going to switch things up a little bit, and we're going to call it Team Lewis Day. We've got the hashtag Team Lewis on our hats, and I know you're wearing your hat right now with our cowboy boots on the side of them, a patch that we're wearing this year in honor of Lewis and what he stood for. So we're going to raise funds. The family has started a foundation where they want to give back to the communities of Northeast Iowa and maybe beyond someday. They've got a great heart, and you know where Lewis got his heart from his family, and they want to do good. And I think, while Lewis is gone, God put him on this earth for a reason, and he changed my life, no doubt. And he changed the lives of all of our players. And, I think that's sometimes it gets lost in all the sadness, but we want to do right by Lewis and what he stood for, and not just for Lewis, right? For all the kids who maybe don't have the opportunity to do something we did get to do, which is play baseball, which is a really, really fun thing and a really precious thing. And we know we're very, very fortunate. And Lewis pointed that out to us. So we're raising money for the Lewis Lechtenberg Family Foundation so they can give back to families in need in Northeast Iowa, in all kinds of facets, whether it be food banks, food shelves, just a family that needs a little pick me up, or a sponsorship to a kid coming to a youth camp. So if you know someone that needs some help in those situations, don't be afraid to reach out to me. We're going to be posting that link on all of our social media sites, Lewis Lechtenberg Family Foundation. I ask that anybody who wants to help give back to community, that's a great, great opportunity to impact Northeast Iowa, which is what we want to try to do too. And one thing this whole thing I think has done too, Darren, is we have kids that are coming from all over the country into our program, and they feel really grounded in Northeast Iowa, which I think is really important. They know that they can make an impact in the community they're in, where they're not just here for 4 years and they leave. We want to help provide them with a lifelong impact. And Lewis Lechtenberg did that, and will continue to do that forever.
And from a coaching and a leadership of a program standpoint, how important is it to get your student athletes involved in something bigger than themselves?
I think it's everything. I think we can get really tied into results, right? Baseball statistics. What's my batting average? What's my ERA? Did we win? Did we lose? And you know me well enough, Darren. I'm a really competitive person, man. I'm not out there just to hang out. We're going to try to win when we step on that field. But really, what is it really about, right? I challenge our kids with, at the end of your career, are you just going to hang on to the fact that you've got the record in ERA, or you've got the strikeout record? You're not going to have any friends, and you're not going to have anybody there when you need them if that's all you're going to hold on to. You got to be more than that. It's about who you are. And I think the one unique thing that Lewis had, an unbelievable characteristic, is he didn't really just associate with one player on our team. He had an unbelievable knack for just walking up to someone, sit next to him, and giving him a hug. And it was amazing to me how often that was someone who maybe went 0 for 4 the day before, or had some kind of things going on in life that were battling a little bit. And Lewis just had that innate ability. I think God blessed him with that. That was his gift, to do that. And we want to repay that gift with everybody we're doing. So I can't say enough about what Lewis did, and how happy I am and how grateful I am that I was given that opportunity to spend that time with him, and given this great responsibility to continue on. And we were going to do that with joy.
And to me, the amazing thing about Lewis, God only let him be with us for 7 years, but he made more of an impact in those 7 years than most people will make in 2 or 3 lifetimes. I'm assuming you would agree with that.
Undoubtedly, Darren. Really unbelievable. His spirit, his drive. His family, same thing. He's got 2 sisters and a brother that have that same kind of whereabouts about him, and his mom and dad. Just really grateful for that relationship, and that bond is growing stronger by the day. And I can't say enough good things about that. And I would challenge everybody who's listening to this. Maybe you don't know Lewis or his story. You can look it up. Maybe baseball is not your thing. You don't have to come and do that, and get involved in this organization. Just do something good for the community. Do something good for your neighbors. It's not about recognition. It's not about what's on social media. Lewis wasn't about that. Lewis was about being in the moment and helping those in need, which is why God put him on this earth.
So if folks are coming out to the game on Saturday, can you make donations there?
Yeah, we'll be there. The Lechtenberg family will be there. You can make donations on the spot as well. You can make checks payable to the Lewis Lechtenberg Family Foundation. Otherwise, as I said, we'll be posting the link on our Facebook and all of our social media accounts as well. The game is at noon. The Lechtenberg siblings, Lewis's brothers and sisters, are going to throw out the ceremonial first pitch. And then following that game, we're going to be shaving some heads just in honor of all those kids, all those boys and girls battling cancer, and knowing that, hey, we love them, we care about them, we're praying for them. We want to encourage them to keep battling and keep fighting and keep seeing the good in the world.
And you mentioned the social media, Luther Baseball social media. That's where you're going to put up some links if folks want to donate that can't make it on Saturday.
Absolutely, those links will be there on our Luther Baseball accounts.
All right. Anything else you want to pass on about this effort that has been one of the really cool things the Luther Athletic Department and your program has done over the past, I think, around decade now?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to put into words of what it's been, Darren. And I appreciate you reaching out. I know you were close to the situation and got to really witness it from a little ways away and just really watch it, what it really was. And me and you, Darren, shared a very special moment, I thought, watching Lewis and his dad last year following our conference tournament. And that's what it's about, right? And I think that's the opportunity that Lewis has given me to really remember, hey, we're raising young men and what that means and what that's all about. And I look to Justin Lechtenberg like, wow, that's a great role model for me to follow that, to say, hey, this is the hand that we've been dealt, and this is how we're going to do it. And I'm really proud to be able to have the opportunity to push this legacy forward and make good of what Lewis did with his time with us.
All right, Coach, we appreciate you taking the time and all of the effort you put forward to help those that don't get to do what sometimes student athletes take for granted, playing the fun game of baseball and all the good that this has done and all the lessons that a 7-year-old taught even us. Well, we'll call ourselves adults. We might not act grown up all the time, but we'll call ourselves adults. But nonetheless, it's been a great effort. It's a really cool thing. And best of luck with the effort on Saturday. And thank you and most importantly, all your student athletes for what they do for our community.
You bet. Take care, Darren. Thank you, and go Norris.
Bryan Nikkel, head coach of the Luther College baseball program, their versus cancer game raising money for the Lewis Lechtenberg Family Foundation this Saturday. Starts at noon at the Luther Baseball Diamond. Always good when you can get a more popular co-worker than you to join you on the Our Town program. And Janelle Halverson is with us, right. Of course, a familiar voice to LA Communications radio stations. But we're going to be talking about the Winneshiek County Historical Society annual meeting coming up this week and a few things they got going on. And Janelle, first things first with you, what prompted your interest in serving on this community? What makes it a fun thing for you to do?
Well, I like history. I think that's really a neat thing to be involved in, and knowing your history is a very valuable thing for planning your future. And then let's just be real about it. Stacy Gosling, who is our fearless leader, our president, is also a good buddy of mine and a business partner and a very persuasive person. So when she said, Hesper Township needs a director, would you be interested? And I said yes. And so here we are.
Did she say please, or did she just imply that, you know what, Janelle, you're a great person for this, do it, right?
No, she said please. Yep.
All right.
Yep. She was convincing.
And you have your annual meeting coming up this Saturday, but part of it is you're going to be showing off a big project that the Historical Society has undertook over these last year. Tell us all about that.
So, yeah, it's really fun. Annual meeting this weekend, 11 to 2, but it's really an open house kind of situation where, yes, we want directors there doing your voting. Hopefully, if you're a director of the Winneshiek County Historical Society, you know all about this. The rest of you are the ones we're talking to because we're building an archive. Stacy, speaking of our fearless leader, brought this up to the board. I don't know. It's maybe been a year and a half ago. And this was such a big project, Darren, that I remember thinking at the time going, there's no way that this fundraising that we're starting for this is going to be any time I mean, we'll all be retired off the board before it happens. And here we are a year later, and Hupkas were up there 2 weeks ago putting in the walls, and in the I should say the foundation rather, and Finholtz have been working up there too. So it's well on its way already, and we of course have a lot to be thankful for as far as people being generous donators, and it's going to be neat. The archive is going to be uh, cool looking, so it's going to fit in with the historic district, but it's also going to be temperature controlled. And so all of the things that we're preserving for Winneshiek County are going to be protected as well as preserved. So it's really exciting. So you can come and see the feat of our new building this
And
weekend.
and what is all included in the Winneshiek County Historical Society's archives?
You name it, Darren. That's just the other thing, is if someone has deemed it worth saving and it's brought to us. So it's pictures, but I mean it's newspapers. There's up in the archives, it's quite an adventure to go up there. We have a saddle that has a great story that goes along with it. We have a gentleman's collections of awards from competitions that he used to participate in, tons and tons of pictures and paperwork and that type of thing, partly because when we want people to be able to look back at history, and a lot of that paperwork is going to be a whole, you come to us looking for your great grandparents, and we're going to be able to say they lived here at such and such a time, and we can tell that because of the census or whatever. So
And
it's a huge variety of stuff.
the annual meeting itself, what type of decisions do you as a board of directors make at your annual meeting?
This year, I think all we have to worry about voting on is those that are running for new board of directors or
Okay.
renewing their terms. Mostly is what we're doing this year. Stacy may have something else on there on that ballot, and I'll be as surprised as the next board member actually when I get up there to vote on Saturday. Um, but we used to do kind of bigger board meetings or annual meetings rather with speakers and all the things, and then COVID happened and that changed, and then everybody kind of liked this walkthrough thing that we did, and so Stacy and the rest of the board kind of decided that this is what we were going to stick with, and it's worked really, really well.
And for those that may not know, where is the Historical Society house, and what are the hours that people can walk through on Saturday?
So the house is at 302 South Mill Street, but it's also on Broadway. It's right on the corner there. It's the brick house that's kitty corner across the street from the church. It's not hard to find. You can come up anytime between 11 and 2 o'clock coming up on Saturday. And we have regular hours, so you can find that on our website. Our office hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 3. And then really you can make an appointment. If you call, get a director who says, yeah, I'll come in and meet with you, you can come in. But as far as the open house type of stuff, and we do other things throughout the year. We had a little ice cream social last year. Depending on how things go with the archive, I'm guessing we'll have an open house with the archive maybe this summer still. Who knows? We've done Dickens on Mill the last couple of years. I know you've talked to Stacy about that with our town and different things where people can come in and see the house. But if you haven't been in to see the house in the last year and a half, we have full access to the whole house because that was rented out for a very long time as an apartment. And that gentleman moved out about 2 years ago. And so now we have access to the whole house. So there's neat displays out, and those folks, Elizabeth Lorenzen, one of them, who's pretty instrumental in getting that stuff set out, put up some really, really neat stuff out of our archives, things that have happened in Winneshiek County, connections to Winneshiek County.
In your time serving on the Historical Society board, what's something that you have learned about Winneshiek County history that perhaps you didn't know before?
Ooh, this is kind of cool. We just learned this a couple weeks ago. This guy named George Bent, he made organs. And really, this is something I had no idea. But I also maintain our Facebook page, so I'm learning a lot all the time.
Okay.
But this organ, he's originally from Burr Oak. So up in my neck of the woods, and he was very famous, made organs, pump organs all over the country. And he has this totally awesome book that he wrote. And a lot of those books you can be accessed online via, which I have that post all on our Facebook page. So if you're listening and you aren't friends of ours yet, we have lots of neat stuff that you can go check out over there too. But so there you go. So this very famous organ guy was raised in Burr Oak, Iowa. So he has a neat little tidbit, and we have one of his organs in the Historical Society house now.
And we talked about the house. We talked about the open house coming up this Saturday. If you're just sitting around gallivanting on the internet,
Yep.
Wanting to learn more about Winneshiek County history, what is the website? What is the Facebook site, et cetera, et cetera?
Just search us up. It's WinneshiekCountyHistoricalSociety.com is the website. It's Winneshiek County Historical Society on Facebook. And one quick thing I should mention too before we run out of time, but coming up here on the 27th of this month, the Locust School, which is a part of the Winneshiek County Historical Society, is having a fundraiser. And that's going to be up at the winery, but mark that off on your calendar. It's always a good time. They get a whole crew of people that used to go to country school, sit and reminisce, and there's a pie auction, and that's always a great time coming up on the 27th. So we have lots going on, and we would love to have the community involved in any way they can.
Anything else we're missing? Anything else up your sleeve besides big muscles, of course?
Yes, the guy, thunder and lightning. You've got it. That's for moving organs, as it turns out. We can ask Stacy about that some other time too. But no, I think that pretty much covers it. But yeah, for sure, anyone listening is welcome to come anytime and see us at the Historical Society. But definitely this coming Saturday from 11 to 2, the 12th of April, we're having our annual meeting and open house, and you can come on up and check out the place.
All right, Janelle, appreciate you taking a few moments to talk about the Winneshiek County Historical Society. Enjoy the event coming up this weekend.
Thanks for having us. Have a good day.
Janelle Halverson from LA Communications, of course, but representing the Winneshiek County Historical Society open house and annual meeting coming up at the Historical Society House this Saturday in Decorah. Having our monthly conversation with Decorah City Manager Travis Goedken. Monday night, Travis, a 26-item agenda, and you got it done eventually. And let's talk about a few of those things on the agenda that happened on Monday night. Hively Street and River Street intersection, Hively Street in general, where's the city at with that?
Mm-hmm. So right now we're going to look at two-phase implementation. Right, what I can tell you is the first phase has been awarded to Skyline Construction, where they'll be redoing the stretch from just short of the College Drive intersection east up until the driveway to the fire station and City Hall entrance here. That's going to be the first phase under construction and done this season yet. The discussion was primarily around that River Street, Claiborne intersection with Hively, and then do we actually do it as a two-phase project, which would require us bonding to be able to have enough funding to go all the way east to State Street. And if we do that, we don't have the staff capacity to design that all in-house. So we would also have to go out and get outside consultant help for that design. Or do we do it as a three-phase project where the second phase would be the intersection here, River and Hively, east until we get past what the school plans are for the new driveway entrance for buses, because we want to try and make sure we get at least that part done during the 26 construction season. So that way the school and that stretch of Hively are being done at the same time. And then come back with a third phase that picks up where that project left off and go the rest of the way to State. If we did that way, it does take obviously 2 years for full reconstruction, more street closure. We'd be paying twice for mobilization to the contractor, twice for traffic control. So there are efficiencies to be gained by getting that whole stretch done in just one shot in 26. And that's where council landed, was let's try and get Hively done in two phases. So that way we've issued an RFQ to help hire a consultant, help with the design, and hopefully get Hively designed and out to bid for a 26 build season.
And how much of this could potentially change based on the construction schedule that the school district comes up with for the new elementary school?
I don't know that it would greatly, because let's say hypothetically the school ends up delaying their construction schedule a bit. right now there's no, if that section of Hively is closed, there's no direct impact to any adjacent property. There's no driveways off of it. No, there's minimal impact for that closure if it's done before the school opens, the new school opens. So we would still probably advance our construction schedule as planned.
Yeah, and also related to a road project, you talked about the 2025 chip seal project. Tell us all about that and tell us the advantage of chip sealing roadways as compared to just regular maintenance.
Mhm. So chip sealing hasn't been done in Decorah for decades, quite frankly. We believe it's been over 30 years since the last chip seal project in Decorah. There, there's an Iowa standard that maybe new residents might be familiar with, have seen in previous communities. I myself have done in previous communities. Uh, that project, or excuse me, that standard is a little backwards from what we're doing. So we're using the Minnesota specifications where the emulsifier goes down, aggregate on top of that, and then you have a sealant applied on top of the aggregate. And Minnesota uses granite specifically as their aggregate as opposed to limestone, which is the Iowa standard. Granite's going to have less fine particulate matter, so that alone is going to help keep dust from being too big of an issue. In addition, there's that sealant that's applied on the top, and that'll also help control any fine particulate matter and dust from becoming an issue as well. Chip seal, it extends the life of an existing street, 7, 8, 10 years. So you have to do it. You have to be selective about where it's applied. Chip seal is not going to be a solution for a street that's degraded to the point you need to do a mill and overlay or a partial depth replacement. It just doesn't work in that way. You have to apply it to streets that are in decent shape. Rideability is okay. It's just extending the life of the street. But what that does is it buys us time because this price that we're paying for the chip seal project, the chip seal process is about an eighth of the cost of a mill and overlay for the per square yard. It's an eighth of the cost. So in theory, we could apply this 8 times as opposed to a one mill and overlay.
And related to that, is the cost the main reason the city is going back to this idea?
Yes, largely we're trying to get caught up. Quite frankly, I don't know if that's ever going to be it doesn't seem like you can ever get caught up with street repairs, but they're expensive. I mean, first phase of Hively, which again, it runs from, I believe it's Sanford, is that the intersection there just east of College to in front of the fire station. That project is $2.8 million. Now, that does include underground work, but you don't want to do a full depth replacement of a street and not touch the infrastructure. That's one of my huge pet peeves, or when you replace a street, don't fix water and sewer mains, and you're back 3, 4 years later cutting a hole in your brand new street. Drives me nuts. So, yeah, take that into consideration. 4 block stretch, $3 million full depth replacement.
And also related to street related items, you discussed a professional service agreement for street light design. What's happening there?
So at the end of the night, the council tabled that discussion. We're still working through kind of the financial analysis of this section of Hively as we build it out. What's going to be more cost advantageous for the city to own the lights and pay either a metered or a non-metered fixed fee to Alliant for their operation, or is it more cost effective to let Alliant own the lights, and be responsible, and then turn around and pay them that higher non-metered fee. So we're still working through that. But at the end of the day, we do have to have the council did acknowledge that we're going to have some design costs associated with that. The discussion was primarily around ownership. So we've tabled that so we can work through the financial analysis a little better.
Moving on to non-street related matters, discussion was held on the Park Board of Commissioners. What's happening there?
Mm-hmm. So at this point, no real action necessarily. Well, there was no action taken, nor was there really any specific direction given to staff to take this. Largely, the discussion evolved around, we'll call it chain of command, just providing better delineation between park board's role and staff's role, reiterating that the Parks and Rec director works for the city manager and the city manager works for the council, and we work to achieve council's goals and objectives. And unfortunately, not every time do those goals and objectives overlap. And so when staff are actively working to achieve council's goals and objectives, it's not park board's place to tell staff that they need to work more on park board's objectives. That's the best takeaway I can give from that discussion. But from a staff perspective, it was reassuring to hear there was a lot of discussion around the amount of projects, the sheer amount of projects we have going on in Decorah right now. Some of which are residents, they're not going to see them. You're not going to notice the $5 million worth of upgrades happening at the wastewater treatment plant that we've been preparing for the better part of 6 months. You're only going to notice when your water meter, gets replaced in your home, but we're doing that across every property in the city limits. So that's a $1.5 million project. Again, been working on for the better part of 6 months. We've got $2 million project up at the airport with a terminal and attached hangar, largely funded by state and federal grant funding. We've got obviously Carlson Park and Dalen Park, both those projects nearing, well, Dalen's out to bid right now, and Carlson Park, we're in the final stages of DOT approval and plan to have those plans out for bid next month. Anyway, I'm just scratching the surface. We've already talked about Hively, $3 million project there. We're spinning plates at this point, just trying to keep everything up and going. Fiber to the premises was brought up in the council meeting that, that's not lost as a priority of councils. I mean, we're holding on to bids right now for $10.6 million for a full build out of a fiber plant throughout the community, and staff is still actively working to try and get that achieved. It's just we got to have that discussion sometime of which of these projects can be backburnered so that we can see success for the others.
I'll ask you about a couple of those projects. Replacing the water mains. Why is that necessary, and when can we see that project completed?
Mm-hmm. So it's actually the water meters.
Meters. I said mains. I meant meters. I'm Norwegian.
Perfect.
So
I just wanted to make sure we were talking the same here,
yeah.
because we've got some water main replacements happening too. But with the water meter replacement, that's largely to make the system operations more efficient, and we can actually look at I don't want to call it reduction in staff, but look at not necessarily uh, filling vacancies as they occur. Because right now we've got a dedicated water meter reader for, half the month. He's out running around from yard to yard. You probably see him go by a window if you live in town, using a touchpad system, going up against the side of the house, hitting that touchpad to know what that meter is reading, coming back here to City Hall, downloading all that information. If you've got errors, they got to go back out, reread those meters. Anyway, this meter replacement will completely update that system to a cellular service where it's as simple as our office staff here pushing a button to download all the meters across the city at one time. This will allow us actually to shift to monthly billing as opposed to quarterly, which should help all our residents, whether it's budgeting purposes or we've had several instances where somebody maybe leaves, has a leaky toilet, and if we don't bill, if, with us billing quarterly, that toilet could be leaking for two, nearly 3 full months, and they don't know it until they get a utility bill for $1,000 and are extremely upset. This can't be right. Well, they've actually had a toilet in the basement that goes unused that's been leaking this whole time. So this will help appease that as well. Along with the fact that a lot of our meters were installed nearly 20 years ago, and they were bought used. And the realistic lifespan of a meter, uh, the older style meters that use mechanical components to spin and measure were 10 years. You were supposed to have those on a 10-year rotation. So these meters are a little different setup. They don't use mechanical means to measure. It's ionization. It just registers the water as it flows through. So significant upgrade to the system as well.
And when will that entirely be done?
So that project's out to bid right now.
Okay.
We'll see that awarded here. Actually, the 21st of this month, I believe, for that council meeting is when that's
Okay.
set to be awarded. We should see it by year's end. Residents will see notices coming in the mail for to please call a number to schedule a time to have those meters replaced. The contractor is required to work with all our residents on a schedule that works on their end. So please, when you receive those notices, that is true. But if you have any questions, if you receive something in the mail that says it's on behalf of the city and it looks suspicious, please feel free to give us a call too, just to verify.
And you mentioned those upgrades happening at the airport with a hangar, and those are largely earmarked for to be paid for by state and federal funds. As most of us know, a lot of the federal government budget is getting inspected with a fine-tooth comb right now. Can you rely on those funds right now?
At this point, we're being told yes. Um, I'd be lying, Darren, if I didn't. I don't want to say it keeps me up at night, but it certainly gives me heartburn, that's for sure. Again, it's a $2 million project that's under contract. And so if our funding is pulled, which again, this is primarily state and federal grant funding that we've secured over years for this project. And if that's pulled and we're not able to get out of this contract, I don't know what that looks like. The building itself, it's a pre-engineered steel building. It's already been ordered and is set for delivery here in a few weeks. And demolition, I believe, is set for next week on the existing hangar for the project to get started. So, ooh, I have put a bit of pressure on the engineers as well as the contractor that let's get this done as fast as possible, because the last thing I want is for that funding to be pulled and we haven't spent anything.
Couple more things. There was a amendment to an ordinance, an amendment to a section of the ordinance regarding throwing and shooting. The first reading went before the council on Monday night. That's related to kind of the new archery range, correct?
Yeah, that's what brought this up.
Okay.
The intention behind this ordinance change is to differentiate between city-sponsored programs and Joe Q citizen bringing their bow and arrow to the athletic fields and shooting it across a soccer game.
Well,
If you know what I mean. So our archery range, which has been inspected by the city's insurance carrier, requiring signage and fencing. Even the city has had archery programs in the past. We have our existing deer hunting in the parks project or program, excuse me. This hasn't really been an issue, but it was brought to our attention, and we wanted to provide clarification that city-sponsored programs, that's not what this intention is.
And also, the farmers market lease agreement was approved Monday night. Any significant changes in that?
No, none at all. That's the city had adopted a resolution a few years back to waive the fees associated with that lease. And so the lease agreement, we simply changed the dates on there and council approved it.
Couple more. I know you discussed some information that was given to you by Zach Current from Winneshiek Raceway. I know the communication between the city and the raceway has been very much improved over the last few years. Anything city residents need to know regarding that?
Absolutely. Uh, One of the changes with that communication that you talked about, Darren, has been a great improvement over years past. One of the things we changed is it's no longer, we don't title it a memorandum of understanding because, quite frankly, and residents have heard me say this for years, the fairgrounds by Iowa code are essentially a sovereign country. Cities and counties are prohibited from adopting any kind of ordinances, resolutions, regulations that would impede on the fairgrounds operations, including the raceway. So I know we used to receive calls quite a bit about it's 10:01 and the MOU says they'll be done by 10, so you need to get there and shut them down. We're not getting those calls anymore because we're clear about this is the racetrack expressing like conveying what their schedule is, what they intend to do for start stop times. They also update and talk about the number of drivers that they had the previous year, where they all came from. They even had a driver from California last year participate, that they had attendance of roughly 8,000 people over last year's race season. So it's been a good communication, well received, and I think it's eliminated some confusion by changing the way we've structured it.
And I know we talked a lot about budget on our conversation last month. You had the public hearing regarding the tax levies that went out that weren't exactly accurate. You explained it very well on our last conversation. I'll let you dive into it a little bit more if you want to, but
Mhm.
I think
Oh, I'll
I think
spare everyone. I'll spare everyone.
I think everyone can go back to last month's video if we want to knew that. But as for the public hearing on the budget itself, when is that going to take place?
Mhm. So the budget itself will be Monday, the 21st. We just held this past Monday, we had to hold a special meeting at 5 o'clock for that property tax levy hearing notice that everyone received that direct mailer again with inaccurate information on it on that state required form. Not going to dive into particulars, but we didn't have anyone attend that hearing. And I really do thank you, Darren, your efforts, as well as all our local media outlets that helped get that information out ahead of time on this. You're going to receive that statement in the mail. It's not accurate. Here's the actual numbers. We didn't receive near the number of phone calls that we were thinking we were going to receive based on that notice going out. So thank you very much to our local media for their efforts on that. Uh, yeah.
Anything else on the Microsoft Word document? Off to I guess you're right as I'm looking at you on this conversation.
Yeah, I tried to keep my eyes from away from darting up there, but no, largely, like you said, Darren, we had 26 item agenda. Consent agenda was pretty lengthy. As Councilmember Neal pointed out, I think it was Councilmember Neal, uh, uh, so many special event permits that were approved through the consent agenda. Um, let's see, I'm trying to think as May approaches. I know there was a lot of excitement last year around the Cops and Rodders car show. And so they were very deliberate about the day chosen, but that weekend after Mother's Day, so I believe it's the 16th, 17th, and 18th of May next month. The 16th is a Friday. That's when Sit and Demai is going to be celebrated by Vesterheim. On Saturday, the 17th, that's the Cops and Rodders car show. And then on the 18th, that is the high school commencement. So there's going to be a lot of activity that weekend downtown, and just want to make sure everyone understands we're being very cognizant. Everyone's working together to try not to overlap each other.
All right, Travis, good information, good discussion as always. Look forward to our conversation next month. As always, we appreciate the time.
Yeah, not a problem. And hopefully next month we can keep it a little shorter, right?
Yeah, well, we'll keep it to as long as we need to keep the public informed. How about that? So,
Sounds like a plan.
Travis Goedken, Decorah City Manager. A thank you to our guest on the program this morning, Bryan Nikkel, Luther College baseball coach. Their versus Cancer game coming up this Saturday. They take on Central beginning at noon. And they are raising funds this year for the Lechtenberg Family Foundation. Check out Luther Baseball's social media for links to donate, or if you're coming out to the game on Saturday, you can do it at that location. Also on Saturday from 11 until 2, it's the Winneshiek County Historical Society open house. We want to thank our colleague, our friend, Janelle Halverson, for joining us, normally an LA Communications sidekick. She does that very well, but also talking about one of her passions, the Winneshiek County Historical Society this morning. And always good to catch up and get informed about what's going on in the city of Decorah with Decorah City Manager Travis Goedken. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. We realize you're a busy person. Can't always be near a smart speaker, a streaming device, or a good old-fashioned radio at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, but we want to bring interesting conversations with interesting people about interesting things to you on your schedule. If you're out doing your thing on YouTube, it's 4-10 Our Town program. That's a great way to keep up with the situation. And we also put these links up on all of our Facebook pages as well. It's the best way we can keep in touch with our communities, because without you, none of this makes sense. So keep in tune to Our Town via the video portion on YouTube. Want to thank our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. Want to thank our 3 fun, entertaining, informative, and exciting guests. And most importantly, we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.